Our next guest says they started virtual care out of necessity. We kept it because kids started opening up in ways we've never seen before. Miss Emily, thank you so much. I know I fumbled over my words because I was so excited about what we were really about to be talking to. You found your calling with adolescent boys in the woods, and now you're really running this statewide mental health organization. What was that addictive, or what was so addictive about the first work you did with teens?
Well, I'm excited too, so I will probably fumble some of my words. Thank you for having me. And I graduated from college many, many years ago, and my very first job was working in more or less a wilderness type treatment setting with teenage boys. And yes, it became addictive because one, they were a lot of fun. I liked every single one of them all the time. And it was really amazing not only to learn alongside them because I was a young adult and they were teenagers, but also to watch them flourish and alter behaviors that had caused them problems in the past and just slowly see the success of their growth and strengthened well being. There's nothing like it. And so I have stuck with it all these years in various capacities. But it's phenomenal to watch humans evolve and hopefully improve their lives as they move forward.
And as you continue to do this work, you realize that mental health wasn't just the boys, right? It wasn't just that individual. It was truly a family, a community one. And that's what really kind of kept you in it, right? It wasn't, yeah, the boys is great, but it's like, how do we continue to empower and really change lives? How we change families' lives? Is that the excitement that you got out of it? Just like, wait, it's not just an individual thing.
Yeah, it's I work with a lot of brilliant people, and one of them always says it's a systems issue. It may be that we have the client that we're serving as the identified patient, but it's never just them. It's the entire family, even kin, grandparents, aunts, uncles, culture of their community. Everything plays a part. And when you're working with a child or a young person or young adult, you really would be remiss if you're not looking at that whole system of support around them. And so understanding that there were so many ways to impact lives by teaching skills, by honing in on some communication gaps, by re energizing or creating deeper relationships. It was amazing, the progress that can be made. And so it feels very hopeful when you can really impact a whole system by working with a family.
Yeah. I kind of talk about I really want to ask the question, right? When you talk about mental health and those that experience in that, I was one that at a very early age, I guess my middle school, high school years, trauma was happening, right? The sexual abuse at home, the adoption, all these different things. So I'll go out to school and barely graduate, I always say, but it wasn't because I was dumb, it wasn't because I was stupid, but just life that was going on at home. Um,
Mhm.
so going to school, one, I felt I could be myself at school. I felt that probably crying out for attention now that I really think about it, right? Just the attention seeking because I wasn't being heard or seen at home. But how we talk about to our other leaders, those teachers that are in the classrooms, administrators, other family members. What are some signs for them to really start thinking about, wait, is there something there? Should we be really working on that? Because we talk about community, we talk about family. I think sometimes even family and community don't realize these things are going on, right? It wasn't until I was 20 something years old where I'm finally saying something, but I do feel that there was teachers in between that kind of seen something and realized like, wait a minute, this is not very normal. Are there any signs that you just tell people to be, aware of?
Yeah, there's the typical signs that we have, for the most part, become accustomed to, like being withdrawn, losing interest in things that kids used to really love to do before. Um, uh, you know, maybe overeating, maybe not eating, maybe sleeping too much. Those are all signs that are a little bit easier to recognize if you're paying attention. And there are so many other very small aspects of behavior that you don't see. How often do we encounter a situation where someone has lost their life due to suicide and everyone around says, we had no idea? They
Correct.
were, playing athletics. They were had so many friends. They were outgoing. They were so funny. We had no idea. So I don't want to, kind of minimize that there are just enormous amounts of behavior that can give us a clue, and sometimes we feel like we didn't catch on to anything. I think the most important thing is communication and relationships. When you really have developed a relationship with someone, when you really stop to listen and ask thoughtful questions, that might be your best way to know something's not adding up or something's bothering this young person. So, just I would say to listeners, know that it's just not a black and white list that you check off. You really have to use your intuition and your connection to discover if there might be something painful or some suffering going on that you just can't see.
I love that you mentioned that. And one of the biggest things that I've also realized is that checking in on your strong ones, right? Because just
Yes,
because they walk around like they're very strong and they got it going together, those are some of the ones that are really dealing with something internally. So it's like never
absolutely.
forgetting them. We spend so much time trying to help someone in need, and really those people that sometimes are actually doing the helping are the ones that really need. You
Yes,
know,
yes.
so I've noticed that as well. Is that some of the things that you witnessing is people that just come across as they got it that usually tend to be struggling a lot as well?
Yes, and as a matter of fact, in this work, it is so important that we're paying attention to the helpers. So, all of the people that work with me at Hillside, paying attention to their self care, paying attention to how they are managing their own lives, because they then have to show up and work with children who are struggling, who are suffering, who have had a lot of trauma. And so, one of the ways that we are really adapting our culture is we've adopted the sanctuary model, and it's a trauma informed organizational operating model. And it's very detailed, but the primary goal is to really create a culture of trauma informed individuals, knowing that each and every one of us bring our own stories to the job, we bring our own traumas to the job, and working with individuals who are struggling can be re traumatizing. So, how do we take care of the helpers? How do we ensure that they have a place to connect? To share compassion, to be supported, to use language that we can all learn to understand so that we're communicating with each other in a really healthy and transparent way.
Emily, I want people to know that this was something you're not just sitting at the seat and really leading Hillside's entire mission. You were at one point in the front line, right? There were
Oh, yeah.
steps you had to take to get here.
Yes.
Do you remember that journey? I mean, I can only imagine there were some things that probably challenged you, you know.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. And I spent 2 years in a direct care counseling role, like we mentioned, with these young teenage boys. And that I know I learned more in those 2 years than I have ever learned in my life. I learned a lot about myself. I learned a lot about kids. I learned a lot about families and mental health. I made lots of mistakes, but the beauty is that when you've got a great relationship with the kids that you're serving, you can say, wow, I really screwed that up. I'm so sorry, guys. Let's try again. So I think, that's so key for adults when they're working with kids is be honest. Don't let them think you know everything. Let them see you be very vulnerable, and that strengthens them. And from that role, I really moved into so many different roles in the mental health arena, from marketing to utilization management to contract negotiations to administration. I love the path that I took, and I promise you it was not planned. I just took advantage of opportunities that were presented to me, and I am so grateful for that.
Hey, real quick, if you enjoying the podcast, we first want to say thank you. And we also just want to give you a little insight of what we're up to at Francis. Some don't even realize that we're working with organizations to help them use AI to create that real human communication experiences, whether that's actually supporting your families, those patients, or the entire community. We're actually creating tech that connects. Check it out, francis.ai. I love that. One thing, one model that I love about what you guys do is you meet them wherever they're at. That could be a Zoom link, a Google Meets, and you'll be so shocked when I tell people, when I start to speak to others kind of in the same space as you, and they're still kind of afraid of that interaction virtually, where
Mm-hmm.
they are a little nervous about what AI could really do to
Mm-hmm.
our communities. The craziest thing I've actually, I don't want to say it's crazy. Actually, maybe it's good. I don't know. You could tell me about this one. But I was speaking to another leader of an organization, and she says her daughter introduced her to ChatGPT. She said, I love it. And her daughter is using it as a therapist. Right, she has these conversations. One of the best things and I continue to share since you told me, I think it was you that shared with me that you had this young individual that was so much more open via a Zoom call versus actually being in person, right? Because they were comfortable around their stuff. They were in their
Right.
room. What is your thoughts on there? Like, what make you guys go into that avenue when so many people are scared to do this, Emily?
Yeah, our venture into what we call virtual intensive outpatient was, of course, in response to COVID. We had a very robust day treatment program, which we still offer, which required people to be here in person 5 days a week. But we saw that we were missing a lot of people who could not be here, especially because of the pandemic, but also because of transportation issues. And so we took the day program temporarily online. It was so effective that we then created an after school program 5 days a week, 3 hours a day virtually. And so now we've been able to keep the day program operational as well as the virtual program. And we have very gifted therapists that engage the teenagers in that group, and they're extremely creative with technology. They do breakout rooms, they do games. They will sometimes in their group processing they might do a scavenger hunt and have the kids like, okay, leave your camera on, go around your house and find these items, come back in 5 minutes. And so it's not just stagnant and sitting there looking at a screen, it's very interactive. And we do see kids, often those who have some social insecurities and trouble being with a lot of people that they don't know, they engage incredibly well. And, we just feel so good about the outcomes for these teens that may not have access to this high quality interaction and treatment option in any other way.
I always like to say the three E's: entertain, educate, elevate. That's what you guys are doing, right? Like, really
Yes,
think about it. That's
yes,
exactly what you're doing. And
yes.
just the entertaining part, right? Those little games, those things that just make it fun. Like, wait, we don't just got to sit here. You want me, of course, for 5 minutes, I'm just looking for something that I can show that it's exciting to me, and I can only
Yes,
imagine the things that you guys get back during those times.
yeah.
Um, do you have a story though of a kid who really thrived during, this
Yeah.
virtual world?
Oh, we have lots of stories, but I did ask the team, tell me a recent story. And so we have a young lady who started our virtual program, and her parents said, "We're going to give this a try. We haven't been successful with other mental health treatment options, group therapy, outpatient therapy, so we don't know if she'll engage." They also said their daughter may likely just respond to questions and engage using chat and not speak on camera. So we were prepared. And on day 3, she started talking. And from that point forward, she engaged in everything. She never chatted her concerns. She was always open to speaking, talking to the group, participating in activities. And in the end, she successfully completed our program, and she did so without ever self-harming during that treatment period. And that was one of the reasons she was referred to our program, is she was actively self-harming to manage her emotions. So we saw that as a great success, and we will continue to follow up to make sure that her outcome stays positive. But she was finally able to engage, not only with her peers but with our therapists and the psychiatrist that works with that team. So we're really proud of her, and it's just an example of parents thinking there's no way this is going to work, and it did.
Yeah. How do you bridge that gap between, those tech savvy kids, but the skeptical parents and grandparents? 'Cause I can imagine kids are the
Yeah.
ones like, yeah, let's do it. And the
Yeah.
parents are like, wait, this doesn't make sense to me.
Well, actually, that's a really important question. There are so many times in a young person's life where they feel like a fish out of water. They don't feel comfortable in a situation, and it can be hard for parents to understand that. So when you flip the script a little bit and you have a child engaged using technology that they do know typically more about than
Hmm.
um, their parents begin feeling this sense of fish out of water. And it's always important for our therapist to point that out. Like, you know what? Your child feels very comfortable with this and you didn't. Let's think about what that felt like, and have some compassion and understanding for when the roles are reversed, when you feel very comfortable with a situation and your child doesn't. So it's so much about helping parents understand from the perspective of their child and change their responses and behaviors accordingly. You've got to parent the child you are given. You can't mold that child into something they're not. So it does require give and take on both sides. The child has to do some giving, and the parents have to do some giving. So that technology piece is just one of those areas where we see often a disconnect, but we try to bridge that with communication, education, skills that we're teaching. And also, an important thing to note is we are often the educators of parents about what is out there on the internet and through social media. A lot of times, kids know far more than the parents do, and sometimes
True.
we have to warn parents
Yeah.
about different sites and activities going on in the internet that they should be aware of and should be very mindful of to help their children still steer clear of them. So it's a balance.
I want to go back to you a little bit here. I love that this is so easy of a conversation, clearly, because you've been doing it for a very long time. But was this always the journey you wanted to go on, or you just
I
purpose
don't think so.
found you and you realized that, hey, I love this? Like, where did you really want to go? Because you ended up here, but
I
you remember
know.
leaving high school and thinking, I want to be a teacher or something? Like, I would love to know how you got here, other than
Yeah.
truly how you got here.
Yeah, I did. For a period of time, I did want to teach. I went to a small liberal arts college, majored in psychology just because it was interesting. There was really, back then, there was no pressure about, finding a particular route, declaring as a freshman and going full
Hmm.
force. I didn't have to do that. And I feel like that was a luxury. So as I left college, my I was not ready to put on big girl clothes and go to an office. So when this idea or opportunity presented itself to continue wearing my jeans and my sneakers and my t-shirts and hang out with teenage boys and help guide them, it was perfect. I was like, hey, I'll do that. We rode horses, we hiked. Again, I was learning alongside them. We would sometimes both be uncomfortable in situations because I'd never done it, they'd never done it. So it was, let's learn together. And I think that helped my relationship building with them and my trust with them and them trusting me. And again, like we talked about in the beginning, it was just addictive. So I probably always thought eventually I would go into business or something. I knew that I would not pursue a clinical licensure. I liked, the business aspect of things. I liked the administrative part. So again, my path just kind of led me to this opportunity at Hillside, and I, no, it wasn't planned. So I tell my own children, it's okay to not have a plan. Just be aware of the
Yeah.
opportunities the world presents and take advantage of them. You never know
Yeah.
where you'll end up.
And most importantly, Emily, I think is do what you love. Do what makes you happy, right? Because if it wasn't for the things that you love and the things that were making you happy, then would you be actually doing the things that you're doing today?
I tell
Um,
our employees here that selfishly, um, I have never gone to a job that I didn't enjoy, and it could have been filing papers at an insurance office. It could have been uh, making deli sandwiches at a little restaurant. But it's so important to me that I don't have to dread what
mhm.
brings home the paycheck, that I actually have fun with whatever I'm doing, and I'm having fun.
That's usually when you know you got to go. When it's dreading, like I'm like you. I always found things that I just wanted to do. Like I was a early on in my career, I was a general manager for like 8 years, but I was still young. I was there from 18 or yeah, about 18 to 20 something years old. So I left, and there's always these things I wanted to do. I always wanted to work at a shoe store. So I said
Hmm.
I worked at part time. I worked at Vans. I worked at just at Converse just because I always wanted to work at a shoe store.
Yeah.
But I, like you mentioned, had so much fun doing it. And then when I just kind of got tired of it, I went to the next thing I wanted to do. I always wanted to travel the world. So
Hmm.
I worked from home picking up calls for the airline.
Oh,
However, pandemic happened. I wasn't traveling nowhere. That ruined everything for
sorry. I'm
me. Yeah,
sorry.
I know. But
We
no,
still
I
have
love.
time.
I still got time. You're right. You're right. But no, I love that you mentioned that. And I think what I would really love to know is you said you learned a lot from these young boys, and I can imagine a lot was leadership, like so much leadership skills. What was those leadership skills you were learning as that young Emily working with these young
Yeah.
boys?
Um, First and foremost, non-judgmental. Don't make judgments. Don't assume too much. Give the benefit of the doubt. I find that most people are doing the best they can with what they have. And very rarely is it an intentional disrespect or an intentional act. It's just a response to what's going on in their lives and what they saw growing up and how they were guided. So really giving people grace. I think also I have been working on my listening skills for many years. I still have a long way to go, but I really try every day to listen more than I speak. And I'm getting more and more comfortable with asking the hard questions. There may be a question I want to ask, and oh, I don't know that I want to know the answer, but I need to ask because that answer could be key to a decision that I need to make. So, listening, non judgment, and celebrating mistakes. I have a dear friend who for many years taught therapeutic West African drumming. And one of the key components of those classes was when you made a mistake drumming, you waved your hands and said, "Oh, mistake, mistake," because you owned it and you celebrated it, and then you kept trying. And I think that's such a good life lesson. We all make mistakes. And in my role leading Hillside, it's really important that I can own those and say, teach me. What do I not know? What should I know? So those are I think the key things in my leadership. And it all started with those young boys
Hmm.
teaching me all the things.
The failing and that there's so much success that comes after failure. It is as you mentioned, it is okay to fail. It's okay to do wrong as long as you learn from those mistakes. I think that's the huge, the biggest thing is learn from them. Any life
Absolutely.
lesson to me is like, what did you learn? I am
Yes.
that guy, Emily. I'm not gonna lie to you. Something happens and someone lost their job. I try to see things in the best way possible. It's like, okay, so what did we learn? There
Yeah,
has to be something there. If you
right.
continue to just think negative, then there's no positive outcome. But
No.
sometimes getting let go from a job opened the door for another opportunity. Like leaving a relationship, you're gonna find the man or woman of your dreams. Like it just
Yes.
happens that way. And I get it. It is okay to kind of be emotional at that time. That is how you feel, but you cannot continue to always feel that way. You have to overcome that. So I love it. I want to
Right.
kind of go back to AI because I think you're kind of in
Yeah.
those early stages of
Hmm.
AI. How are you seeing young people? I know we mentioned a little earlier how we're seeing some young people using it as a therapist. Are you seeing that more of this? Is it working for them? Like, what is your thoughts?
Well, I know you had mentioned previously about the person you spoke with, their child was using Chat GPT,
Hmm.
as kind of a guide or for some therapy. Um, we feel like it is an adjunct or a supplement to what a really skilled and trained therapist can do. So I wouldn't rely on it exclusively. Now, if you, especially for those who haven't been in outpatient therapy or are wondering, do I need to consult a therapist? Should I get more help? Starting with AI might be a good way to get your comfort zone, feel comfortable and see if some of the tips are useful. I wouldn't exclusively use that.
Hmm.
I know that the training and the depth of knowledge and experience that our therapists and psychiatrists have just can't be matched. But having tools to supplement what a person is going through in therapy is can be really helpful. We use like mindfulness apps. We
Hmm.
use meditation apps. Things that can help a person hone their skills, their distress tolerance skills, their emotion regulation skills. Those are wonderful tools. And using AI at Hillside, we are in the early stages, and probably my focus right now is more about how can AI help our therapists do their jobs, especially around documentation, because a therapist typically goes into this field to directly work with kids or families or individuals, um, a lot of that one-on-one or in groups, not to document.
Hmm.
And the documentation requirements of their work are very stringent. Essentially, if you don't document it, it didn't happen. So there is a lot of their time that is spent in documentation of the services they provide. So AI can be an incredible tool to reduce that time. And that's what we're really exploring and are likely to implement soon.
I love it. Yeah, I mean, AI is here in the sense of helping with admin or repetitive tasks. what a better way to start? Because who loves to do admin? Okay, we didn't go to school. We
They
didn't go to
yes.
school for that.
No, they that is not the favorite part of their job. No,
It
no,
is
no.
not. It is not. And to be quite honest with you, it allows when you can take that away from someone, it allows them to really focus back into the client, the young kid,
Absolutely.
that individual, and really that's what we need to be focused on. Because
Yes.
being, we talked about it a little earlier, being heard, being seen, it all starts with a therapist, right? Being heard and seen. To me,
Right.
one of the best experiences I had was a therapist, and because I felt I was heard and seen. Like, not
Hmm.
one time did she look away. Like, if she was writing notes, I didn't realize it. She must have
Hmm.
been a good, note taker in her head or something. But it was just such a casual conversation.
And
And
that's key. That's key
mhm.
because there are set techniques where, and I know you've probably been to another type of medical professional where they are documenting on their computer while you're
Mhm.
talking to them and they're not looking at you.
Yeah,
And
usually when I go to the
so
doctor's office.
yes, and so it does distract from at least that sense of attention and
Mhm.
focus. So yeah, AI is going to be an amazing tool to help us do that and to keep that contact with the
Yeah.
individual.
And like you mentioned, what I love is that you guys just have options: the virtual, the in person. I've experienced virtual, wasn't my thing. Maybe just because of the therapist on the other side. It was just more like, oh well, I'm not busy. I'm not busy. Could do this. Oh, we don't have to do video. Maybe we can do that. Like, it just wasn't what I was looking for. But that in
Yep.
person one, I was just, oh my God. And Emily, I only went to her one time, but I was just so like in awe of how good she was, how comfortable she made me feel right away. I don't know what it was. It was the room, but I left there, and I'm an advocate, and this was years ago that I actually should go and meet her. I just moved away so far, um but now, even having that good conversation in person, I'm like, yeah, I could do virtual because it was so good in person. Like, and a lot of times I'm a very energy type of guy. So
Yes.
it's hard to see your energy virtually, not you in per se, but sometimes it's hard to get that energy from someone because not
Sure.
everyone knows how to portray energy virtually. That's so hard. I've seen that teaching virtually at one point. You can see the different instructors that are really understanding, hey, this is virtual. You got to do everything to be really entertaining or exciting.
Yeah.
And then there's those that you're like, oh my God, this is so boring. So
Yeah.
it's a little bit of everything. You gotta find what works best for you. And I love that you guys are really bridging that care, not really replacing a human connection, but
No.
how do we just make our jobs a little easier and allow us to do more of the things that we actually enjoy? That's a kudos to what you guys been able to do. How long have
Yeah.
you been running the table now?
Well, I have been at Hillside almost 11 years.
Oh my
And
God.
previous to that, I have over 35 years in the field. So, but yeah, celebrated my 10-year anniversary last year. So it's been just
35 years.
I,
Who would have thought, huh? And it's funny because you keep saying, I was just mentoring or hanging out with the young boys, and then 35 years just flew by. Here we are, right?
Here we are.
I
Yes.
love it. I love it.
It's
Well,
been
listen, as we start to
fantastic.
wrap it up, where can people find you? Are you on LinkedIn, but also the organization, so they can look up more of the
Yeah.
things that you guys are doing, some of the
I
programs.
am on LinkedIn, Emily Acker, and Hillside is located in Atlanta, Georgia. We have a beautiful residential campus in Midtown. Have celebrated 135 years in
Wow.
providing services to children and families. So a long, long history. Our website is hside.org. So we don't spell out hillside, just
There you go.
hside.org. If anyone feels inclined, we're always looking for donations. We use donated dollars to help scholarship mental health services for kids who don't have the funds to receive services, or their Medicaid or insurance won't cover a particular type of treatment that we think would be highly beneficial. So we will scholarship those services. We want all kids to have access to the care they need and to create a life worth living.
I love it. And for those leaders, what do you like to know? What would you like them to know about showing up authentically in this space?
Oh, just don't be afraid. Just again, be vulnerable. practice non-judgment, be willing to listen. Just know that we're all in this together. None of us are perfect, and that there's so much to learn, not only about yourself but the people around you. And it's a fascinating and wonderful world when you're willing to do those things. So it's, yeah,
I'll
highly
leave you with this
recommend.
blind question before you ask your blind question. I got to ask you this blind question.
Oh, okay. Okay.
What's your vision for a world where mental health care is shame-free and accessible to all?
My vision is that people are communicating with each other more authentically. That by having a world like that, the comparison problem we're having in social media, the fact that we look at everybody else and think they have it better than we do, or they're prettier than we are, or they're more athletic, starts to kind of die down, because
Yeah.
we realize we all have our challenges. We all have our struggles. None of us are perfect, and that we're human, and being human is an incredible gift. So that's what I envision, is that we just are more accepting and compassionate toward each other, because we're all in the same boat.
Yeah, I love that. And that's really what I love to have these podcast conversations because real, authentic, there's nothing that we're hiding, right? We talk about some of the struggles. We talked about how we didn't have it all together, but, purpose found us by just doing the right things. Like, there's so many really things you can take about by us just being ourselves. And so
Yeah.
I love that you were completely authentically yourself, that you were able to share those insights, Emily. Had a really good time, but now it's time for your blind question. What do you want to ask the next leader?
Okay, for the next leader, when you're leading a not for profit, you tend to put so much of yourself into your mission. So I would ask, what are your intentional steps to nourish and protect your mental health? Intentional is that key word.
I love it. I love it. I kind of going to give you some insight on that, what I had to do, because, and I think that this is something that we will always do in life, right? It doesn't happen just one time and that's it. You got to, as you mentioned, it's just how do we continue to do it, being very intentional. And for myself was when I decided to take one of the biggest risks of my life, be having a stay-at-home, mom. My wife was a stay-at-home mom, two kids, and I decided to walk away from my corporate gig. That was,
Scary.
people don't walk away from consistent income. That's just very hard. But I had to have faith. I of course there was a little bit of fear in it, but I just said, you know what, the word of the year was going to be faith, and I really had to reset the mind. It was a thing, the people that I was talking to, because sometimes we don't realize, and I don't think people do it intentional. But I had a friend that was like, "Oh, how's your small community doing?" It's already kind of dimming the light there.
Right.
So I had to, you know what, stop talking to that person as often. The music I was listening to, I was listening to more worship music, or doing the things that bring more peace. I love plants, so just planting more. So
Yeah.
had to really reset the mind, or even the things that I was telling myself. It's going to be. This is not permanent. This is temporary. You're in this dark tunnel. This is part of the process. Like, these are the things that I was really telling myself, and so I created this 30-day mindset journal for this exact reason. A
Yes.
mindset reset is needed for everybody and anybody. It
Yes.
doesn't matter at what title you are, whether the CEO, the executive director, whether you just flipping burgers. A lot of times we just need to wake up that mind and say, hey, know our worth, right? That's still what I always say, to know your worth and understand
Know
that we
your
all
worth.
have value. We all have
Yes.
value. So I love it, Emily. This is such a good conversation. And
It's
thank you so
been
much for doing this
fun.
with me this morning. Yeah. Guys, if you guys are enjoying these conversations, all we ask, and the thing to do for free is just like, subscribe, and comment, because I'm a big believer that somebody just needs to hear a story and their life can change. And I love that we have leaders like Emily that are being just so raw and authentic, but also just talking about what's happening in the mental health world. To me, a word that I'm so excited we get to use so much more freely, because not, you know, 5 years ago, it wasn't that. It was that we were all ashamed to even say that we had mental health. So, Emily, we thank you for being a leader for the last 35 plus years on showing what mental health can really do for our young kids and for our families. Guys, it's been the Heart and Hustle podcast. This is Emily. My name's Efrain. We'll see you guys in the next one.
Thank
Latest.
you.